Hello, let's do a few more examples where we are multiplying exponents and using powers of powers. So our first example says simplify, and notice that inside the parentheses we have 5n to the third power. That power of 3 is next to the n, and it only affects the n. It does not affect the 5. So when we start simplifying, we follow the order of operations and we look inside the parentheses first. Because the power of 3 is only next to the n, there is nothing we can simplify. That 3 does not affect the 5. So now we can move on and look at this exponent that is outside the parentheses. Because this exponent, 2, is next to the parentheses, that means it affects everything inside the parentheses. It is saying we are going to have 2 of these being multiplied together. So let's go ahead and write that out. So we have 5n to the third being multiplied with another 5n to the third. If you wanted to write it out the long way, just to make sure that you're remembering those shortcuts correctly, this would become 5 times n times n times n. We have another one over here, 5 times n times n times n. Those are being multiplied together. This is one long string of multiplication. There is no addition there. So this is 5 times 5, not 5 plus 5. 5 times 5, 25. We have 6 n's all being multiplied together. That is n to the 6th power. So 5n to the third inside the parentheses being raised to the power of 2 becomes 25n to the 6th. If you are using the shortcut, you do need to remember that this power of 2 affects the 5 as well as this power of 3. So this is 5 to the second power, 25, and n to the third power twice. That's 2 sets of 3. 2 sets of 3 makes 6. Okay, example 2. Pretty similar to the first one, just a little bit more going on inside our parentheses. So following the order of operations as we simplify, look inside the parentheses first. Inside the parentheses, I see a power of 2, but it is next to the x only. It is not affecting this negative 2. It is not affecting this y. So there is nothing we can simplify in here. It has been simplified already. So we move outside the parentheses and we see the power of 4. This power of 4 is next to the parentheses. That means it affects everything inside the parentheses. It's saying we need 4 of these being multiplied together. Exponents represent repeated multiplication. So we're going to multiply all of this by itself 4 times. Okay, we have a lot of multiplication happening. Let's focus on one piece at a time. It's just easier if you focus on the numbers, then a specific variable, and then if you have another variable, that variable. So let's just start with the numbers. We have negative 2 being multiplied by itself 4 times. That does not equal negative 8. These are being multiplied, not added. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Positive 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16. Another way you could look at it is say these two together give you a positive 4. These two together give you a positive 4. And 4 times 4 gives us 16. The x's are what we could look at next. I have 2 x's being multiplied together here. Another pair here, another pair here, and another pair here. All together, there are 8 x's being multiplied together. That would become x to the 8th power. The y's, there's just 1 in each set. Y times y times y times y, y to the 4th power. So let's look at the original and our result and see if we can see that shortcut in there. If we have a power of 4 outside the parentheses, it affects everything in the parentheses. This is -2 to the 4th power. We have 4 sets of x to the 2nd power, and don't forget, this y has a power of 1. We have 4 sets of 1y. -2 to the 4th power. -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. We've got that right here, and we get 16. 4 sets of 2x's being multiplied together gives us x to the 8th. So you can multiply. 4 times 2 gives you 8. We have 1y, but we're making 4 sets of those 1y's. That gives us y to the 4th. 1 times 4 gives us the 4. So that's for the power of a power shortcut. If you're looking at the multiplication shortcut, remember when you're multiplying with exponents, you add the exponents. So 2 here, 2 more here, 2 more here, 2 more here. Altogether, that's 8. We have a bunch of 1's here. Y to the 1st, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, y to the 4th. So either shortcut works as long as you're remembering what the shortcut is. And if you don't remember, it takes a moment, but when you write it out the long way, you can see what the answer should be, and you know you've got it right. Let's look at one more example where we have some simplifying to do inside the parentheses before we apply that outside exponent. All right, last example. Lots going on here. Definitely need to rely on the order of operations to make sure we do this correctly and get it right. So order of operations, PEMDAS, parentheses first. Inside the parentheses, we've got a power of 5, but it's only next to the h. It is not affecting this 3. We have a multiplication problem happening. So let's go ahead and do that multiplication. We have 2 being multiplied with 3. That gives us 6. We have a g and an h to the 5th. So inside the parentheses, we get 6g h to the 5th. Everything else comes down. It follows along. So we still have this power of 2. We haven't used it yet. We still have this -6g outside the parentheses. Fix that g. It looks a little small. Okay, so now, still following the order of operations, inside the parentheses, we've simplified. That power of 5 only affects the h. There's nothing to simplify. Move on to exponents. This one we can't do anything with, but we can do something with this. This power of 2 is next to the parenthesis, which means it affects everything inside the parenthesis. It does not affect this -6g here. This -6g is not inside the parentheses. So it's only affecting what's inside the parentheses. And it's saying we have 2 of them being multiplied together. So let's write that out. All right, so I've taken the 6g h to the 5th. We have 2 of them being multiplied together. Here they are. So all of this is represented right here. We haven't brought this down, and we need to remember it's still there. We haven't used it yet. So let's go ahead and bring that down. -6g, and that's being multiplied with the rest of the stuff. Anytime you have something sitting next to a parenthesis, it implies multiplication. All right, so now we can go ahead and look at our numbers. We have -6 being multiplied with 6 and another 6. This is not addition. This is multiplication. When you multiply -6 times 6, we get -36. Multiply -36 times another 6, and we get -216. Now, let's go alphabetical. Look at our g's. We have g times g times g. These are all just g to the 1st power. So that becomes g to the 3rd power. G times g times g, g to the 3rd power. Don't have any h's in this first term, but we have 5 h's being multiplied together here and another 5 h's being multiplied together here. Let's take a look at that written out the long way real quick. Okay, so that's a lot of h's being multiplied together, but it is not 25 of them. You should not have h to the 25th power. This should be h to the 10th power. You have a set of 5 here, a set of 5 more here. Altogether, that gives you h to the 10th power. So using the shortcut, if you get a different answer than that, I would recommend writing it out the long way. It doesn't take much, and you know you've got it right unless you make a small mistake, but that would cost you less than if you make the more significant mistake of using the wrong shortcut. So take your time, write it out the long way if you're not sure, and that will definitely give you a better chance of getting it correct. I hope this helps.